Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to the Science Mind. This morning's Science Mind class, I'm Dr. Petra, and we are continuing on in the general summary. We're now beginning to turn our attention to our spiritual work, to doing spiritual mind treatment and doing spiritual work, and really our intentional use of our word. So I'm delighted to see you guys in the room and happy to be with you online. For the most of the US that's having hot, most of Europe that's having hot, and wherever hot and hot and hot is, we're happy to be together in the cool. All right, so we're starting on page 413 if you're following along in the Science of Mind. And so I want to start on the fourth paragraph, the third full paragraph, the fourth paragraph. And this is really beginning to think about what does it mean to do intentional spiritual work, to intentionally speak our word. We have lots of ways in which we do that. We do affirmations, we do guided meditations, and in the Science of Mind we teach a particular technology called spiritual mind treatment, which really highlights this use of our thoughts, intention, and words to heal and to create. So in mental treatment, when we do this work, we should feel as though the whole power of the universe were running through the words we speak. The words must become spirit and life if they are to overshadow the thoughts and actions that have brought about the discordant condition. As much conviction as we have, that we may use. So, so our job in our mental and spiritual work is to actually believe what we're saying and to develop as much conviction in that belief as possible. In the traditional religions, they call this faith. But in New Thought and the Science of Mind, what we recognize and remember is that it's not a blind faith. We don't do this because somebody told us to do it. And we don't do it thinking that somehow we're miraculously going to appease or change the mind of some deity somewhere. We do it because we have learned that we're consciously using the creative process, which we've just spent the last, I don't know how many weeks, reminding ourselves of how that works. Right? And the whole first part of the book that we've been wandering through, the Science of Mind, lays down that philosophy. All of our mental and spiritual work is built on an understanding of the nature of reality. So over and over and over again, we remind ourselves about what we believe or know or have experienced about the nature of reality. Not just the nature of physical reality, but the nature of reality in its totality, including spiritual reality, and how the infinite push of life itself actually becomes creation. And that we're a part of where that is happening, only it's happening consciously. We hope it's happening consciously, because otherwise it's happening unconsciously. And so when we do our work, our spiritual mind treatment, when we do our spiritual work, we should feel as though the whole power of the universe were running through the words that we speak. So the place that we start with our spiritual treatment is not from our human self that says, oh, please, I'd like to have this different, or couldn't I get to the other side of this? But we speak it from a place that recognizes that we're individualized expressions of that infinite life, that the same impulse of life is running through us, and that we're using the same creative process that has manifested the physical universe, has evolved into conscious beings, and is now aware of using it. Do you see? So our conviction isn't the amount of willpower that we ourselves can muster up. It is the amount of trust that we have in the universal principles and laws and our understanding of the co-creative process. That's what we have conviction in, right? It's the same thing that allows you to get out of bed in the morning, put your foot on the ground, and not even think for a moment, are you going to drift off into space? Right? You don't even think about it. It's not even something that you worry about. And yet you know that space is weightless. And that if you were to take a rocket and get out of gravity, the gravity of the Earth, you would in fact become weightless. Right? And so gravity is part of the nature of the reality of living on a planet. And we take that utterly for granted. And so by doing our spiritual work, by using our word with this kind of conviction, do you see we begin to teach ourselves that the creative process is as reliable as gravity. We're simply using laws and principles, and our conviction is an outpicturing of the fact that we actually believe, trust, we actually know that it works. And the more conviction we can have, the more power our word has, right? And that's kind of the how much of us is standing in our human experience. I don't know, it's kind of big, I'm not sure, oh my God. And how much of us standing in that place where we know the spiritual truth about the nature of reality, and we're by God going to speak our word about this thing, no matter how big or scary it might be. Feel the whole power of the universe running through the words we speak. And also, it's so important to recognize this is not an egoic speaking. We're not speaking from our ego. We're not speaking from, well, I'm going to make this happen, and I want this to happen, and by God, I deserve this to happen, and right? That's us. That's all of that is coming from our human place. And we're constantly wanting to do the work to shift us into, well, no, but if I'm an individualized expression of the one infinite reality, then I'm going to speak the co-creative word. And the principles and laws are going to operate in such a way that this manifestation is coming about. It's an entirely different point of view. And the more deeply we can show ourselves that it works, then the more conviction we have, right? Which is why sometimes we use the examples of very tangible material things, not because we know that we think they're going to make us happy, but because you can tell whether or not you manifested it. You either manifested it or you didn't, right? And we start out with little things. We start out with simple things. We begin to show ourselves, oh, really, I can actually do this. I am actually speaking that co-creative word. So then when we want to speak about lifestyle and healthy relationships and empowered work and making a contribution and a deep experience of the oneness, right? We have built our conviction because we've seen it work. We've been able to say, yes, I manifested that and that and that and that and that. Our mental and spiritual work isn't just to make ourselves feel better. It is actually to bring about something new, whether it's a healed condition, a changed condition, or to create something brand new that we've not had before, done before, or simply to grow, to up-level our spiritual experience, up-level our contribution to the world, whatever it is. And so we stair-step ourselves into that conviction. And that's one of the reasons why we often end up using very specific manifestations as examples, and then also encourage people to practice on those particular things. Because we do actually recognize that it's nice to have a good job and a lovely home and, you know, the material possessions and all of those kinds of things, but we also know that those aren't things that make us happy, right? And we begin to learn that as well. The conviction that heals is that God, that one infinite reality, is all in all, and there is no material cause or effect, right? What that means is to remember that whatever condition we're experiencing is an outpicturing of a previous cause. So the experience that we're currently having is actually history. It's actually old news. And so, yes, it's absolutely the experience we're having, but it shows us something about what has been creative in our lives. And so what we do is we recognize that whatever the experience is, it's an effect. It's an effect of a cause. And so we're going to move back into that causal state and shift or create new or set new intention, set, as Science of Mind says, it set a new cause in motion. Shift the direction of the creative process to the outcome that we want. To do this, we must contradict what appears to be so. We must contradict what appears to be so, right? And so that's a really delicate part of our spiritual work. What we don't do is say, well, that's not a real experience. Okay, somebody who's in pain, that's about as hateful a thing as you can say to them. I'm sorry, that's not a real experience. Get over yourself. Or, well, what was in your consciousness that created it? Right? No. It is the work that we do in our spiritual work that contradicts, and what we're saying is that this experience that is manifested, this is not in alignment with how life is seeking to express itself in its fullness. This is not in alignment with how when life is moving in a good trajectory towards life, this is not a part of it. This has nothing in the universal truth holding it in place. Therefore, it's an outpicturing of a cause, right, that comes out of a false belief, comes out of our own consciousness, it comes out of the collective consciousness about how life is or isn't, or our family, all of that stuff. Right? And so what we do is we contradict what appears to be so. We're doing that in our mental and spiritual work. Never, ever, ever, ever when we're sitting with a friend or a loved one, or even ourselves when we're needing to be compassionate with our own experience, right? Because we are having a human experience. And so to say these things are real, aren't real, or that they're an illusion, or that they're somehow, that is not the point. And I cannot stress that strongly enough. This work we do when we're doing our conscious, intentional, spiritual work. That's when we say no to the condition. No, that's not the spiritual truth. No, that's not how spiritual beings behave. No, that diagnosis is not, Spirit is not wanting that diagnosis for me. There's nothing in the will of God creating that. No, no, no. But do you see, we're doing that in our intentional spiritual work, not when we're having to deal with our own feelings around something, or certainly not when we're sitting with somebody. Unless, of course, that somebody has asked us, please know for me, this is not my truth. Right? We all have those people that we rely on. That's why we have spiritual coaches and practitioners here at CSLDallas. That's why we have our sanghas and our people that we're working with, that we're walking with, and we trust them not to get in the hole with us. And we want them to see the truth when we're not seeing it, right? Or when we're not feeling it, or when we can't be that. And then we have those very trusted people, and we count on them to be able to hold, no, this is not your spiritual truth, when we're going, ah, and our hair's on fire, and our heart's broken, and we're like, ah, right? And we get to have those moments. And we need somebody who's not going to jump in there with us, right? And so this is all grown-up spirituality, right? And what that means is it's not just, it's either or, it's not all, very simplistic. I mean, we have to be able to become consciously aware of what's going on. Am I in a moment where I'm speaking my spiritual word, or am I in a moment where I'm being compassionate with myself or someone else? And we can actually do both of those things at the same time. We can actually sit with ourselves and someone in the middle of a deeply compassionate moment and have part of us back here going, this is not the truth, 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 right? Because what we're doing then is we're not giving causal power to the experience. We're just being in the experience, we're letting it be what it is, we're allowing it to be what it is, but we're not giving it causal power. We're not saying this is always the way it's going to be, there's nothing that can be done about it, da-da-da, isn't this awful, blah, 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 right? Because that's what holds it in place. And we can really be that way with someone and give them the gift of standing there with them while in the back of our minds we are knowing for them, this is not the truth, this is not the truth, this is not. Sometimes that's all I know how to say. I don't even know what the truth is. I'm not even sure what the other outcome is, right? But what I'm saying back here is I know this is not the truth, 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 because I don't want to buy into it, right? But I want to be there. And I will sometimes have to be that, I have to do that with myself as well. I have to be able to feel my feelings while at the same time there's that part of me that knows this is not the truth, this is not the truth, this is not the truth. Do you see that? And we're constantly kind of adjudicating these two things. We're spiritual beings having a human experience. This is simultaneously true all the time. And so when we're doing our spiritual work, we are 100% in our spiritual being nature, the Buddha nature, the Christ consciousness, whatever you want to call it, right? We're 100% being in, which means we can speak from that place, from feeling as though the whole power of the universe were running through the words we speak. Because when we're doing our spiritual work, we're speaking from the spiritual truth that we are individualized expressions of the one, and that it is actually our job to create, right? And then we're speaking from that place. And when we're doing our spiritual work, right, it's really a powerful thing to pay attention. Am I speaking for the thing I want, or am I speaking from the truth I know? Big difference, right? And it's okay to start out speaking for the thing I want. It's okay, right? It's okay. And we start showing ourselves, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this, because I'm showing myself, yes, I'm a spiritual being. Yes, I use the creative process. Yes, the creative process works. But we're growing our spiritual muscle till we're speaking from what we know. This is what I know about the nature of reality. This is what I know about me. This is what I know about the situation. There's nothing causal in this situation. I don't allow it to be causal in my life or anybody else's life. I'm going to be causing this, whatever it is, right? And that's the growing of our conviction. That's what that means when we're growing our conviction that we can do this work. The conviction that heals is that God, Spirit, that one infinite reality is all in all, and that there is no material cause or effect, that we are doing that work on that spiritual plane. Okay, so we're going to stop there and see what is going on, either in the room or out there online. Like, what does this percolate for you? Does a story you want to share, a question you have, a place where you get maybe tied up around this, or find yourself a little challenged by the whole idea? So we're going to turn it over to Joseph and say good morning to everybody online. Ryan is out with his family, and so we have the lovely and talented Joseph behind the microphone. Good morning, Joseph.
Good morning. How are y'all doing? We appreciate you guys joining us today. This conversation is really engaging, so if you want to participate, there's a couple of ways you can do so. The first is for the people joining us here in the room. You can simply raise your hand, and myself or Richard will hand you a microphone, and we ask that you use that so the people online can hear you as well. The second is for the people on Zoom. You can simply tap the raise your hand icon, and we'll ask you to join us and unmute your microphone. If you're on Facebook, you can post your questions in the chat box, or your comments in the chat box, and we keep your identities confidential so that we can maintain a safe manner of approach with your spiritual growth. So at this time, any questions?
Oh, we got one right over here.
Okay, there we go.
Please remember to say your name.
Hi, my name is Gordon.
Hi, Gordon.
Is it on? Okay. I don't know if if everybody caught what you said, but it's very profound. There's a great discussion, especially when you're talking about repeating it, not out loud, but in your mind over and over and over again. I recently read a book called High Performance Thinking, and it was a sports. It was back in the day when they didn't really know what separated some of the really tremendous athletes from the average athletes, and then as they studied over time, one of the things they talked about was the power of your thought and controlling that. In other words, they gave an example of an ice skater, and she was going through her routine, and she cared enough to be self-aware that in the past, when it came to a certain point in her routine, she would always stick, for example, let's say she stuck her leg out. And if she kept her leg in, she would have had a much better score. And so she realized, and she had been told and over time that she had developed that habit, and that was kind of ingrained. And if she didn't do anything about it, every time she got that point in the program, instinct and habit would kick in, and she would automatically do that. So what they told her to do was, at that moment, every time that comes up, right before it, leg in, leg in, leg in, leg in, and repeat it over and over and over again. And they stressed to her that if you just do it 3 times and then stop or something, leg out, because of, what do they call it? Nature loves a vacuum, because something will come in to fill it. And what will fill it is what you don't want.
Right,
so
habit.
they said through the entire thing, you keep saying leg in, leg in, leg in, and you will develop a new habit that will replace that old one. That was very important. So exactly what you were saying.
Yes, thank you. And the power of the affirmation, right? And usually our affirmations, we make paragraphs, and we say them once or twice, and we can never remember them again, right? An affirmation, 10 words or less. Leg in is a great affirmation, right? I mean, that's what it means. And then to repetitively remind ourselves of what it is that we are actually focusing on. Beautiful. Thanks, Gordon. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Carmen. It's
Hi,
first
Carmen.
time here.
Welcome.
Since we're talking about the affirmations and repeating it, I would say conflict is that I don't feel it
Right.
when I say it. And so I don't know if I feel like something, I don't know if I'm hard on myself, but it's just like when I say it, I don't feel it. And so I don't know, and then I stop doing it because I'm like,
Right.
I'm not feeling this, so I don't know if I'm doing it right or wrong. So.
Good. Okay, this is a great question, Carmen. Thank you so much. And it's a particularly challenging for folks that tend to be very feeling oriented in the world, right? So what you have to think of is that you are going to do Chinese water torture on your old beliefs. Drip, 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 drip. So when Gordon is saying repeating it, that isn't just once or twice or 3 times or 10 times or 20 times or 20 days. That is 100 times, as many times as you can think of, as many times as it comes up. A really good, powerful affirmation, you do not have to feel. What you have to do is what you're doing is rewriting the synaptic pathways in your brain, which then rewrites your whole system, right? And so the way that neural pathways get laid down is one of 2 ways: the intensity of the emotion or relentless repetition, right? So think of the relentless repetition of things that you heard, felt, saw as a child that then became false beliefs, right? You didn't feel those things necessarily. Actually, you probably tried to move them away and say no, but relentless repetition, then not only do you hear it, you're stupid, you're not capable, whatever it is, you start saying it to yourself, right? So without trauma or a high intensity emotion, it is the relentless repetition that's rewriting the synaptic pathways of your brain. And so neuroscience has shown us this. With our neuroplasticity, it is the thought that we think either with a lot of emotion, which is the feeling it, or repeatedly think. We are literally creating a new synaptic pathway. And eventually, when we, what Gordon's talking about too is that the in neuroplasticity, what happens is for a while you have two neural pathways, and it's whatever neural pathway you get closest to as you start thinking about something, or thinking about that area of your life, or having a feeling about it, right? And it's like your brain has two that it can choose from. And without intentional effort on our part, it will choose either one. And ultimately, it will choose the one that's bigger. So when we're first starting out with our affirmations, we have a little tiny new groove and a giant, canyon, right, of the old one. And so it's going to go down the canyon unless you force it down the new groove. And every time you force it down the new groove, you're built, right, like a washout, you've diverted the stream, and now it's got to carve that new canyon out. And so the more that you do that, then the canyon actually literally begins to atrophy, and it literally begins to close up. And I think of it as like, the leaves fall in it, and then there's a big rainstorm and the dirt falls in it, and all of a sudden that canyon is a little tiny gully. And now the gullies are about the same size. So which one is it going to go to? Well, randomly it's going to go to either one unless we keep forcing it down the one that we want. And eventually, habit, that's all we're doing is creating a new habit. Eventually, the new thought is the canyon, and the old thought is a little bitty stream. And every once in a while, sure, our thought goes down there, and we say, no. And then we reaffirm the thing that we have begun to create. Until this final, eventually that does the synaptic pathways, they literally come apart, and they get far enough apart, they just don't find each other anymore. So don't let anybody say you can't heal it, you can't change the habit. You can, but it is relentless. You must be relentless, regardless of whether you feel it or not. Actually, in the face of feeling the opposite. Because the feelings that we have are actually the product of the old thinking. The feelings are the product of the old canyon. And that's what's stimulating the feelings. And so in the moment of doing that work, we're going to set aside that we feel that way. We're not going to ignore it. We're not going to pretend that we don't have those feelings, but we're going to say, no, I am consciously going to affirm the truth while I am having these other feelings. Do you see? This is the juxtaposition that we're constantly working on. And what does it illuminate? It illuminates our power to choose. Am I going to let the feelings run away with me and go down the same rabbit hole that I've gone down forever? Or am I going to say, yes, I acknowledge the feeling, and this is what I believe to be true. This is what I know to be true. This. Boom, 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 boom. And this is the reason why I say every affirmation should be under 10 words. Under 7 words is really good. Because you can actually remember it, and it becomes like it's just that thing, and it becomes white noise so that your brain can't go the other direction. You're just not going to let it. You are going to be in charge of what is happening up here. And so while you're doing the conscious spiritual work, you're literally rewriting the synaptic pathways in your brain. And so what a great question. And this is the power of affirmations and why people talk about them. They are not simplistic child spirituality. As I said, the biggest mistake people make in affirmations is they write a paragraph and they stick it on their mirror and they read it once a morning. This is not an affirmation. This is not going to change anything. right? When we're using an affirmation, we're just relentless. So that's what I think of. I think of do Chinese water torture on that old belief, man. I'm gonna just drip, 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 drip. And you know, I mean, I don't want to affirm for anybody. But it could take weeks, months, even years. But I promise you, it will change. Absolutely. Promise you that with that kind of relentless diligence, it will change. Thank you. We have another comment right over here. Can we grab the microphone right over here?
Morning. Another tool that I've learned
Say
at
your
CS
name.
Elizabeth.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Another tool that I've learned at CSL is Fear to Faith, and I love that tool. And that's pretty much what you're talking about.
Yes.
And I think last time we spoke, I was doing one, and I'm actually doing another one, and I'm like, okay, maybe I need to do these like
Regularly.
Yes. And I really enjoy it. So what it is, it takes you through a process of like what you're going through, and then you're labeling like, okay, this is the error. I don't remember all the terminology, but you're releasing what you're doing, and then like what the belief is, what you're actually doing. So whether you're withdrawing, you're appeasing, whatever it is, and then you're replacing it with
A spiritual truth.
Yeah, spiritual truth. So peace, abundance, joy, order. It's a really beautiful practice. And like Petra said, you know, when you're building that muscle of, this works, like even though you're in it, you're like, I'm going to do this and it's going to work.
Yes, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. If we wait to feel it, we'll never start and we'll never do the work. But ultimately, the work causes us to feel differently.
It's amazing. I really enjoy it. I mean, yesterday I'm celebrating my 30th.
Yay! Happy
And
birthday!
Thank you. And so I'm celebrating, and this weekend I was like, okay, I was telling my partner, I was like, okay, I have to pray in the morning. But I didn't do that morning, but while we were at lunch, I was like, okay, I'm gonna go to the bathroom. And I did it in the bathroom.
I love it.
And I was like, okay, and today's my 7th day. So I'm on my 7th day of doing that. And so what it is you're doing it, you repeat it, what you create, the releasing, and you repeat it 70 times for 7 days. But I mean, I've gone up to 20, like maybe 22 days, or
I'm doing a releasing prayer that I wrote 10 years ago. I'm still doing it. Yeah, because it's so powerful. But that first initial rewrite is amazing.
Yes.
Thank you for saying that, Elizabeth, and good for you for using it. I do Fear to Faith regularly. It is a process that our practitioners and spiritual coaches can put you through. Big plug for the first Sunday celebration in July. I have planned for the entire community to do a Fear to Faith during our celebration, because I want to teach people this tool, and I want to give them the form, it's just a way of processing yourself through it, right? And you get this fabulous prayer at the end. It's basically an affirmation. It's a little bit longer, but when you say it 70 times 7, that gets like written into your brain. And I have it. I still use this one 10 years later. Whenever that little tiny sliver of a groove that's left that gets activated, when that little tiny sliver of a groove that's left gets activated, man, that releasing prayer comes right back up, and I'm like using it over and over and over again, because I don't want to rebuild that old groove. I don't want to get stuck in it. I don't want to give it any energy or attention. And so thank you for saying that. That's a brilliant tool. And there are so many ways in which we can illuminate for ourselves what's in the way, what do I want instead, and how am I gonna give this potent words so that I can really do that work. And sometimes we're working on very deeply seated, so what should we say? Synaptic patterns that were laid down with trauma, right? So for me, growing up with a rageaholic, alcoholic father, I grew up with when is the other shoe going to drop? Because inevitably it would, and it would spin out, and then we were in trouble, and so it was never clear exactly what was going to set it off, right? No matter how perfect and good you were, you just never knew when the switch would be flipped. And then, it was abusive and all of those kinds of things. And so I've been unraveling all of my trauma over the years and blah, 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 blah. And about 10 years ago, I was like, okay, I am ready to handle this. I am ready to handle this. And it is, and so my releasing affirmation is, I release my belief that something bad is going to happen. I release my need to be afraid, because I could feel it. I could feel it. I would walk around knowing that all this good, that whatever good I was experiencing, it was in a heartbeat, it was going to be gone, or it was going to shift, or somebody was going to get weird, or I was going to get in trouble, or God knows what, right? I mean, that had been my lifelong pattern. And I'd done other work with it, but it was the fear to faith, that work. And I said that release, I released my belief. See, I can still say it like nothing. It's like an anchor for me. I release my belief that something bad is going to happen. I release my need to be afraid. I'm grateful God is the joy that I am. Because I realized that always waiting for the other shoe to drop was completely in the way of me experiencing the joy of the moment, because I couldn't experience the joy of the moment because I knew it wasn't going to last, right? Which is, of course, the false belief. The knowing that it's not going to last, that is actually the false belief. And so I did my releasing prayer probably for 3 months straight to start building that new groove, that really, really new groove. And then I would use it, once every few months. And then I would use it once, every once in a while. And now it's in my hip pocket. Anytime I feel that, even the tiniest little moment of feeling that, boom, that affirmation is right there. And I say it. Oh, okay. Okay. I'm back settled, right? I mean, and it's relentless. And sometimes it's a few minutes, and sometimes it's 5 minutes, but it used to be I would have to do it for hours. That's what it was 10 years ago. I would do it for hours so that I could rewrite what was happening here, so I would stop feeling it here, right? So I love that you brought that up. It's one of my favorite tools. It's brilliant, and you can use it on everything and anything that's really deeply lodged back there. So, big plug for the 1st of July, the first Sunday in July. If you're around, if you're not gone for the 4th of July weekend, we're going to do that. Everybody's going to do it. I really want for everybody to learn the tool. And that's what we do, right? With what our classes are about. That's what we're constantly doing, is providing all these different tools, different ways. Everybody's a little bit different. Different tools will grab, one person, another tool grabs another person. Over time, as we become more, we have more conviction, we become more confident in ourselves, tools that we couldn't quite get a hold of, all of a sudden, oh, yeah, now this one works for me, right? And so that's why we stress the education, all of our classes, and being in sanghas, which are the community of practice, right? Elizabeth's like, yeah, because then every month you're with people who are helping you remember your tools and helping you remember your truth, and then you get to do that for others, right? And if you can remember the truth for someone else over and over and over again, eventually you're confronted with the fact that you can remember it for them, but you're not yet remembering it for yourself. And when that moment happens, celebrate, because that's a breakthrough. Because now you're like, well, but wait, why would I not include? Why would I not be included? If I can see it for that other person, surely I'm included too, right? Which is so powerful, why our Sangha groups are so powerful. Because not only are people doing that for us, but as we do it for another, right, we get to see, oh yeah, that's true for me too. I'm a part of this too. I can have this good. I can speak this word, whatever it is. Beautiful. So Joseph, let's see if there's anything that you want to report from out online. We've had lots of good comments here in the room, so I'm going to just check with you. It's silent out there. Have we just stunned you into silence? It's all good. It's all good. And so this is our process of building conviction, right? And conviction is not it's not something that happens overnight, right? It is something that we build over time with practice, with diligence, with encouragement, with being empowered, right? That's why we have this class every Sunday morning. We have lots and lots of classes and opportunities and different ways to get involved, to keep going deeper, and to keep building that conviction. Because remember, when we're doing our spiritual work, we start out doing it for the new awareness, new experience, new outcome. But eventually, we begin to get deeper into our spiritual truth, where we start speaking from what we know to be true. And man, when we've moved into that place, now we're no longer fixing, healing, improving ourselves. Now we've moved into the place where we are co-creating. We're creating life. We're creating our life. We're up-leveling it. We're expanding it. We're trying some new things. We're just allowing the innate reality of who we are to express in ways that maybe we've never really imagined before. Or maybe the truth is we're simply more present in the moment. We have the opportunity, right? We can savor just the ordinary moments of life instead of missing them. Instead of missing them because we think it should be better, we should be different, or we're worried about that it won't be the same tomorrow, or gosh, why wasn't it that way yesterday, right? We're just missing the beauty of life itself. Right, because the creative process, it actually results in beauty. Like, look at all this beauty that we have back here in our. I love having our Science of Mind class in our art gallery. So this is Valerie Guillaume. She's amazing. She does all this silk painting, and she does all this creative art, and she creates clothing, and I mean, yeah, right. And our life is our canvas. Our life is our expression, and we can try new things and do it in new ways. But if we have all this other stuff going on, then we can't stop and appreciate. Wow, look at this beauty right here in this moment. This moment with a loved one, or walking in the woods, or whatever it is. All right. Good. All right. Well, I'm just delighted to be with you. Happy Juneteenth to everyone. Happy Father's Day to everyone, for being a father or a dad or having that place in someone's life. Truly grateful for all that you do. Truly grateful to be together. We'll see you in the celebration in 30 minutes, or we'll see you somewhere on campus or online. And in the meantime, have a beautiful day. Bye for now.